So today I thought it'd be fun to take a look at an agent tier list. Of course, we got some new agents to potentially place on a tier list. We've got agent changes to talk about on where agents might go based on some of the changes that they've had. And it's just quite an interesting meta time, I think, in Valorant. So let's dive in. So, of course, there are a lot of agents to get through, so let's get through some of them pretty quick. Let's start with Astra, who I think most people would just accept. Astra with 5 stars is pretty good, and I think an A tier is very fitting for Astra. But one we perhaps need to spend a bit more time on is Breach, okay? Because, of course, you might say that Breach is kind of the meta right now, right? With Breach, Teo, Yoru, a lot of, of the better teams essentially playing that on quite a few different maps. And I think, assuming nothing changes, no big nerfs come or anything like that, we probably will see even more of that going forward. And Breach will probably end up as one of the highest picked agents overall. The thing is, of course, if you've watched this channel for a long time, you'll know that Breach has been the lowest agent in terms of non-mirror win rate over the past 3 years. Now, this year, he is doing a little bit better, but he's still under 50%. He's hovering about 46% overall right now, and funnily enough, his best map in terms of non-mirror win rate, Abyss, is actually rotating out. And Ascent and Icebox obviously aren't maps the way you're probably expecting a ton of Breach, but who knows? Maybe we will go all in Breach Tail on those maps as well. But Breach, it's a tough one for me because he is kind of the meta right now, but I can't go against the kind of, I think that Breach has just been megally overrated the past couple years and probably is still a bit now. So I'm going to put Breach in the B tier. Brim is much easier to just place in the B tier. Brim, historically and now as well, has just been good on the maps he's good on, right? He's good on Fracture and Bind. He's not really good on any other maps. That's Brim. Chamber. Now, again, a difficult one because we have seen, G2, for instance, with Leaf play quite a bit of Chamber and obviously make it look pretty decent, in the way that they make it work. And so, on one hand, you're kind of like, maybe there is some space for Chamber, but I still don't think that Chamber is that good of a pick. I think there are better picks than Chamber. Can you find some use from Chamber? Yes, but I think that he's more of a kind of C tier agent overall where, you can find value with him, but it might not be the most consistent, and there probably are better options. Clove. Now, most of you will know my long, deep hatred for this agent in terms of thinking Clove is good, and Clove kind of got nerfed, I guess, recently. So, look, I'm sticking Clove in the D tier. Now, Cypher is an interesting one as well that we can spend a bit of time on because, of course, at the end of last year, we were seeing a ton of Cypher. Cypher's seeing play kind of everywhere, and, he probably would have been getting into S tiers for quite a lot of people. This year, we've seen actually a bit of a replacement from Cypher, from a bit of Vyse, or people playing no Sentinel at all on some maps. And so it's kind of interesting. Personally, I still think that Cypher is good, right? I still think that, when you see a good Cypher play Cypher well, you'll still get a lot of value from that agent. So I'm still going to put Cypher in the A tier. Am I going to put him above Astra? No, I'm going to say no for now. But yeah, I still think Cypher is pretty good. Deadlock. Okay, another one we need to spend some time on because, of course, Deadlock recently got kind of giga buffed. Now, had Deadlock not received the buff, I probably would have put Deadlock on like a C tier, right? An agent that, again, kind of similar to Chamber where in the right situation, you can definitely find value from it, but I wouldn't make it like a common choice. Now, though, it probably will be a fairly common choice, Deadlock, on a couple maps. And I do think there is potential for real value there. The question is, can I put Deadlock into S tier, having not seen the new Deadlock? I am a bit reticent to do so, to be honest. Again, there's a lot of other good stuff you could play, and if teams, don't fully buy in and aren't good with the kind of comboing the util together, maybe it won't be the most useful. This is the meta, you would say, though, for Deadlock to be good with this change. But I'm going to put Deadlock at the top of the A tier, okay, for now. But very easily, Deadlock could be up here. But for now, I'm going to put Deadlock at the top of the A tier. Fade. Fade, I think, is just, pretty solid. I think probably a B tier. I think there are better options on certain maps. But on certain maps, of course, Fade is pretty good. So, yeah, that's like a B tier. Gekko. Gekko is another interesting one. Because, of course, we saw a lot of Gekko last year as well. And we might see a bit more Gekko with Icebox coming back in. But we have seen a lot less Gekko than I think, we might have expected. Obviously, Teo being a big part of that, and maybe Gekko and Teo, not having the best synergy versus some of the other initiators. But does that make Gekko bad? I don't think it does make Gekko that bad. I still think that Gekko is a good agent. I still think that Gekko does a lot of good stuff, and you could probably find a lot of value from Gekko if used correctly. So I still kind of want to put Gekko decently high, I do have to accept that this isn't the meta for Gekko, really. That said, I'm sticking to my principles. I'm still going to put Gekko in A tier. I still think Gekko is good, personally. Harbor. Oh, sad Harbor. You're going down here. I'm going to still put you above Clove. ISO. Another one who got an interesting buff, particularly for pro play. With that buff, particularly of the suppress. I know you did lose one of the undercuts, so you do only have one of them now instead of two, which is normally a pretty big nerf. But the fact that you get the suppress is going to be very important for maps like Haven and Lotus, you know, sending those out early on. The question is, can you play ISO elsewhere? But I do think it's possible. I think it's possible. I think I'm going to put ISO low A tier. I can't believe I'm doing that. I can't believe I'm doing it, but I think with the current meta, if Yoru ever got nerfed, ISO would be in big trouble and probably be maybe even C tier, to be honest, because you do need, like, Yoru to some extent to, like, make a comp work well with ISO, but Yoru is very good. So that means that ISO is pretty good. And I do think the buffs, I'm going to put him in low A tier. Jett, I'm going to put in mid B tier. Again, similar to kind of Fade, like, okay on some maps, but, you know, there are probably better options on others. KO is still good. KO, and again, I've said this before, but KO, as the game goes on, it's just going to keep getting better and better, because getting suppressed is going to be better, because people are getting better at their util and comboing it and stuff like that, so being able to suppress them and stop that gets better as time goes on. But I'm going to put KO in A tier, I think. Killjoy, again, I think, obviously got help. Probably would have been in C tier before the change to the tail missiles, you know, not destroying Killjoy lockdown straight away. So yeah, let's put Killjoy in, like, mid B tier. It's like an okay agent right now. Neon, I'm going to put right next to Jett as kind of like a, you know, decent option. I think we've seen that, you know, from like T1, for instance. The Neon can still be, you know, pretty decent even after the nerfs. But let's go B tier. Omen, I think, is going to be our first S tier agent. I still think even after the smoke change, and that's the thing, with the one ways, Omen was probably like S plus. Without the one ways, he's more of like a, you know, generic S. I still think the flash is one of the best abilities in the game. TPs are good. I mean, smokes in general are just good. Obviously the ult isn't that great, but that's fine. And yeah, Omen still very, very good. Phoenix. Ah, man, do I have to put Phoenix in D? No, I'm going to put Phoenix in C still. I still think if someone played Phoenix, you would find decent value from it if used correctly with farming ult orbs and getting flashes and stuff. So yeah, we'll put Phoenix in C. Okay, and then Raze. Raze, I think, also going in the S tier. Combos pretty well in the meta right now. You know, goes well with Teo, goes well with, you know, for instance, Deadlock, certainly. We'll probably see a lot of that, to be honest. I wouldn't be shocked. And so yeah, Raze, just pretty good. Reyna, come down here to the D tier. Sage, I mean, with the Deadlock buff, is there any reason to ever play Sage? I don't think so. So you're coming down here. Skye, something probably needs to be changed with Skye as well. Skye still has more use than some other agents, so I'll put Skye in the C tier. Sova, S tier, probably actually a little bit lower in S tier than otherwise, just because this isn't necessarily the best Sova meta right now. Like, you know, maybe doesn't combo necessarily the best. Teo, we know where Teo's going. Would Teo be S plus? That's an interesting question. I would say no right now. But some of you will probably be thinking that, you know, Teo would be up here in the mountains. Viper. As you know, I am a big Viper fan. We have seen Viper's pick rate drop pretty significantly, although with Icebox coming back, they'll probably come back up at least somewhat. But I still think Viper is very strong, to be honest. It's still my belief. So I'm going to put Viper in A tier. I'm still going to put Viper in high A tier. I'm still a big Viper believer. Vyse. I'm gonna put Vyse, I think, in low S. I think Vyse is very, very strong. Would not surprise me if we got... I don't think Vyse needs a big nerf, but it would not surprise me if the razor vines changed in some way to either last less time or were, you know, a bit smaller, or just, you know, just something, just like some tweak to make it a bit worse. Would not surprise me in the least if we got that for Vyse, because I think Vyse is very, very good. Waylay, my personal opinion is that Waylay is a decent agent, but not overpowered. I could find some use, but there are better options right now in the duelist class. So I'm going to put Waylay in like low B tier for now. Yoru, I mean, right now is obviously very good. I actually am going to put Yoru below Sova as well, I think. The reason I'm going to put Yoru here is his win rate is still not very good. Now, we have obviously seen that for the very best teams and the good teams, you know, they can play Yoru and get good value from Yoru and, you know, make it look extremely, extremely strong. And that is the thing with Yoru, right? The ceiling is very, very high, but the floor is also very low, right? A bad Yoru team is really quite bad. And that does have to go into the agent. You know, with like Teo, it's kind of hard to mess Teo up. But your utility and like where you put it, you know, you're just pressing buttons on a minimap. A drone is always good. It's much easier to get no value from Yoru. And that, I think, is my tier list for now. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below.